Our last lesson for solving equations prior to our quiz is today's lesson on solving multi-step equation with squares. Now, prior to you learning about how to solve them, we need to know that a square is a monomial or binomial that has a power of 2. We've talked about squaring things, and now we're going to take that knowledge and put it to work. So our first example we have here is solving x squared plus 7 equal to 23. Our first step is going to be to create that plan using order of operations backwards. And so I take a look here and I see that x is first being squared. So I'm going to first write x squared because it's the only real way to write a squared without just looking like a random 2. And then I see an adding 7. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make that U-turn, and I need to think about this. And opposite of adding 7 is going to be subtracting 7. Now, one of the things we talked about back in Unit 1 that I'm not sure how many of you remember is that the opposite of squaring, what undoes squaring, is actually going to be the square root. So one of the notes you might want to make is to remember that using a square root will undo a square. So when we go back to our equation, we've got here first that we're going to subtract 7. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides, leaving me with x squared because these cancel, and 23 minus 7 is 16. Then I want to square root, and I need to square root on both sides. So the square root of x squared is x, because we say, well, what times itself will give us x squared, and that is x. And the square root of 16 is 4, because 4 times 4 is 16. So we have our solution here, knowing that after we created our plan, we're then going to use our golden rule of algebra to cancel the operation. And then we went ahead and repeated that step until we were done. In our case, we did it twice. And then finally, moving on to making sure you check your work. So for this first one, I'm going to check my work because I want to make sure that I did it correctly. So we've got that we're going to check. Remember, our first step of our check is to rewrite the problem. So x squared plus 7 equals 23. Then our second step is going to be to substitute our number in for x. And then we're going to simplify. 4 squared is 16 plus 7 should equal 23. And in fact, 16 plus 7 does equal 23. So therefore 23 equals 23, and we're checked off. Moving on to the next example. I'm going to go ahead and put a blind up here so it's easier to look at. We have the quantity x minus 4 squared equal to 49. This time when I create my plan, because of those parentheses, order of operations says those have to be done first. So I see first that first we're subtracting 4, and then we are squaring. And I'll do this so I know that it's a square of some term. So when I go ahead and make my U-turn, this time I'm first going to square root to get rid of the squaring, and then I'm going to add 4. So when I do go ahead and do that with my problem, I'm going to first square root both sides. Square rooting gets rid of this squared, which leaves me with x minus 4, and the square root of 49 is 7. Then I'm going to go ahead and add 4 to both sides, giving me x equals 11. So if I go ahead and check it, you should be writing down the check, but I'm going to mentally check this, seeing that 11 minus 4 is 7. 7 squared is in fact 49. Now let's move on to this final example for today. We have a little bit more work. We have x minus 7, the quantity squared, plus 3. So when I make my plan, I know that first I'm taking x and subtracting 7 because it's in the parentheses. Then I'm taking my quantity and I'm squaring it. And then finally I'm adding 3. So when I make my U-turn, a big U-turn this time, I'm going to subtract 3 to undo, then I'm going to square root, and then I'm going to add 7. So knowing that, I can go ahead and start by subtracting 3 from both sides, leaving me with x minus 7, the quantity squared, equals 84 minus 3, which is 81. Then I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides, which cancels the squared, giving me x minus 7, and the square root of 81 is 9. And finally, I'm going to add 7 to both sides, giving me x on the left and 9 plus 7, which is 16 on the right. So if I check that, 16 minus 7 is 9, 9 squared is 81, 81 plus 3 is in fact 84. Your job now is to go ahead and complete this U-try problem of the quantity x plus 10 squared minus 4 equal to 21 and bring your questions with you to class tomorrow.